Welcome back to the Whatnauts Reactor Core number 137. My name is Kyle Springer. I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson. We resurrected it, Melissa. It's been a while since we've done a Reactor Core here.
Quite some time.
Yeah, Night Country. True Detective Night Country was the last one that we did. But we are back to talk about some more television shows and the like. This episode, The Bear, Season 3 is what we will be talking about over on one of our other podcasts, The Review Show. You guys can go hear about all of our thoughts on Season 1 and 2. We have a recent episode up all about that. We rewatched that in preparation for Season 3 here. So
you rewatched it. I had never seen it before. I had never seen any Bear before like a month ago. And I was able to watch seasons 1 and 2 and then immediately hop on season 3. And I don't like the idea that I have to wait like a year before I see any more Bear.
Right? Yeah. Now they've got you hooked. Now you're like the rest of us who has to painfully wait for more seasons. Well, I guess we don't know when season 4 will be airing exactly yet, but we know that they filmed it back to back with season 3. So it hopefully won't be another full year. Hopefully it'll be like end of this year, real early next year, something like that. But
we'll have to see. I don't know the schedules. I'd have to double check when Emmy voting happens because I know a lot of TV shows playing around that.
I gotcha. Yeah, good stuff indeed. Well, The Bear Season 3. Basic kind of plot synopsis for those who are, I guess, maybe have not watched it yet. This season to me felt like a calm before the storm. We pick up the brand new version of the restaurant has opened. They are trying to deal with still new changes, a changing menu, and their goal is to get a Michelin star, and they are still going through it in more ways than one here. So that's the basic plot of what's happening in this one here. Do you have any kind of like spoiler-free thoughts that you want to add to this before we really dive into spoilers, or should we just jump right into?
I'll say on the emotional front, the major issues we're dealing with is Carmy breaking up with Claire and trying to put the restaurant first.
Yeah.
The big rift between Carmy and Ritchie in the last season finale, and Sugar's impending baby.
Yes. Yeah, some big things are happening for sure. If you thought it would be smooth sailing, absolutely not. Absolutely.
What have you been watching?
Yeah.
Surely now it's smooth in season 3, you say, sitting down on the couch.
Well, they just opened their new restaurant. How lovely for them. Everything must be so great.
I'm excited for a lovely season of The Bear. I want it to feel like the Great British Baking Show. Just calm.
Just jolly, right?
Jolly.
No, it is hectic. It is chaos in the way that the Bear has traditionally brought us. But there were some new flavors, I feel like, that they did with this, especially in episode 1, which I ended up really liking a lot.
Yeah.
I think that was maybe my favorite episode of the whole season here.
Very rare for a show to bring on a guest composer for a single episode.
Yeah, true indeed. So yeah, that's kind of all I will say spoiler free. It was a great season. I know some people did not like it as much as the other two. But I still think there's a lot of love out there for this season as this show continues to be incredible. So good stuff with all of that. I guess I'll go ahead. Where is my my little spoiler alert thing? I'll hit the spoiler alert button. Man, Bam. There we go. Okay, full spoilers. Let's dive right in with episode 1. Okay. Because I really liked this one, as I just mentioned. And it does something interesting that we've not seen in the show yet, right? This is a bit of a clip episode in the most like derogatory way of putting that. It's a clip episode. But they managed to do it in a way that I found fascinating, that I feel like I really resonated with. It was very emotional. It was a good reminder of everything that has been happening, and the mind states that people are in. But also to, like I said, kind of bring this calm before the storm. It's still stressful. There's still a lot happening, but it's doing it in kind of this like contemplative way that I just thought was neat. It's really cool.
Contemplative is the word of the show.
Yes, especially here in season 3. It feels slower in that sense because they really are being like, okay, so we opened the restaurant. What does that mean? Right? Like, what does that mean? Now what do I do? How am I supposed to act now that we've got all of this? And they set up some non-negotiables and stuff like that. There's the rift between the front of house, the back of house. There's all sorts of tragedy. One of the first ones, of course, being Marcus's mom passing away. So there is still lots that they are dealing with here. But what did you think of this first episode?
We do get a lot of footage we've already seen, also some new stuff, and a lot of context for Carmy's history and his career. Set to a guest score from Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross that scores the entire thing. It's a very quiet, light on dialogue first episode that's just him working studiously in the kitchen. Just lots of him learning from different chefs. I love Jeremy Allen White's concentration face where his mouth puckers up like a little baby bird beak.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good mix of past and present. We get to see more instances of Carmy working as a chef in other people's restaurants and learning the tricks of the trade. We get to see him when he like first meets Luca and stuff like that. And we really do get to see him just like out hustling everyone here by and not just like by a mile, by like 30 miles. Like he is so much faster than everyone. He's learning so much quicker. And as a result, like the chefs are both noticing and pushing him in different directions, which I thought was neat here. And it kind of brings everything into focus of what these characters must be thinking about and stuff like that. Something else that I want to point out with this that I just realized, this first episode, this story was also credited to Maddie Matheson. Fack. Yeah. Fack himself.
Fack. I have to talk a lot about the facts.
Yes.
Just the facts, please.
Yeah, the facts are absolutely incredible in this. Do you want to jump right into them?
Can I do it now?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
We have Neil and whatever what's his brother's name? Ted?
Yeah, I'll look it up here.
They are the one thing anchoring this show to decidedly being a comedy and not a drama. The fact that you see them in every episode, they're full on goofy.
Yes.
They're very sincere. They're not very cute.
Yeah.
I like that there's a guy named Teddy who's not a member of the Bear bloodline.
Right.
They're the one thing keeping the show being considered for comedy awards and not drama awards. I think it's them. They hold back the tide of being pushed to an entirely different category.
Yeah.
The fact that they get to be in every episode, they get to have such consistent energy, and be this real secret little heart of the show and not just its funny bone. What I love about the facts is that we see these two brothers and we get a sense of their larger extended family.
Just like 8 of them, really 9 of them.
Right. Seems really chaotic and messy, but also seems very loving. Like those two are always together. If they're arguing, it's like a very silly argument. I think there is some moment where they do say, I love you, and like hug and like kiss each other on the cheek. They're very literal and open with their feelings. I like when they talk about how like one of them stole something from another one and they're like, he's haunting you, bro. What do you got to do to get him to not haunt you? And like this whole show feels so haunted by, you know, Michael Berzotto and all these other presences that it's refreshing to have these characters outright put a name on it. Like, I'm being haunted. Well, what can I do to resolve the situation? I will give this thing back and I will apologize. And I'm done being haunted now. Like, they're so open and honest and practical about their problems in a way that it would be wonderful if other characters would truly look to the facts and learn from them. But they're also really intuitive. I think of the scene where everybody goes to Marcus's mom's funeral. And you see Neil's got his hand on Sugar's shoulder. He's like leaning forward, like he's like, I've got you. You're okay. And the camera pans down and you see her like clutching her pregnant belly, like, oh, she's going to be a mother. To go to the funeral of another mother must be a really intense time for her. And I like that you see him comforting her before it really clicks with you exactly why she needs to be comforted. Like, he's on the scene before you are. When she's in the hospital having her baby, it's the facts that go there to see Donna.
The first ones,
Donna, who's this incredible lightning rod, this like very troublesome character that many other characters have difficulty dealing with. And they're like, we'll go sit with her. We will greet her as a member of our family. We're there to hug her. We're there to say, we're proud of you. We're happy you're here. Like, consistently, the facts are able to do things that nobody else can do.
And it's like they also do it to such an extreme, as we see the other characters do other things to such an extreme that even when they try and go see Claire at her job to be like, hey, Carmy just doesn't know how to apologize to you and to like say all of that stuff. They're just a lot. Like there's so much, they're so constant, they're so just in your, and she's just like, look, I love you guys, but you need to leave. Like I cannot deal with this right now.
And that's something that they get. People will tell the facts that they love them. And it's frequently in like, I love you, but you need to stop, or you need to slow down, or you need to go away. But people will say, I love you to the facts in a way that they never say to other people. Yeah. You can be open and honest with them. They're magic.
It's an interesting thing, right? Because, there are so many shows, so many movies out there where the tension and the drama of the narrative revolves around people just not talking, not saying the thing that they need to, not addressing the problem. And these guys are doing it literally, but also in a way that makes everyone be like, hold on a little bit. Like, not yet. Like back off a bit here. But also like they bring a certain comedy to the space that no one else really is. That I think is a lot of fun. Again, almost maybe too much. Like, we got a lot more of the facts this season, and I do want to learn more about their family.
Yes,
but again, I think I felt like a lot of the other characters felt. It was like, I love you, but I need y'all to back off just a little bit here.
It is odd that the show is like so severely dramatic and then so severely comedic instead of more regularly being a merging of the two. It'll swing from one to the other. But I just wanted to take a moment and appreciate the facts for really being unique characters and valuable characters, and they feel like an unnecessary addition. But I really think this show would feel very different if they were not there. I think absolutely. They do something valuable.
Absolutely. I think also you mentioned how they introduced this idea of haunting. And as we said, the season 3 is much more contemplative. I think this idea of haunting is a question that Christopher Storer, the creator of this show, is really trying to put out there, right? Of like, what are these characters haunted by? What is Carmy haunted by his past? Yes, he is. Maybe specifically certain people, right? Is Sydney haunted by the choices that she has to make?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Right. And I think it's a way to bring something that is maybe in the background of the show to the forefront of the show. Be like, let's have these other side characters like literally mention the word haunting in a context that's like real silly, not really about what the rest of the show is about, as John Cena makes his cameo appearance and stuff like that. Right. Like just in one way, like haunting can kind of be left over here with the facts, but also if you think about, like, it's not hard to think about that, like, oh yes, all these other characters are haunted by something, but it's just there's something nice about them being very plain with like, what about this idea of being haunted?
They're literalizing it and they're solving it. They're like, there's an issue between us brothers. What do we do to get past it and get back to where we're supposed to be? They're a lot more expedient about these things and recognizing if there's a problem, you have to solve it.
Yeah.
Nothing festers with the facts the way it does for other characters.
Yeah. They're a delight. They're a delight. Cool. Well, let's see here. Do you want to go like character by character? What's up with them?
Oh, fun. That's let's take it that way.
Who do you want to start with? So we already did the facts. Where do you want to jump to?
I want to say that for a show that is so yelly as its base status quo, when Carmy and Ritchie blow up at each other from either side of the walk-in fridge door in the season 2 finale, it was difficult for me to predict exactly what the ramifications of that would be. Because if it was in any episode besides the season finale, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal because they're doing something like that most of the time. But that is a major repercussion in season 3, that those two have blown up at each other and they're not communicating with each other. And for the front of the house and the back of the house in this restaurant, it has more severe ramifications operationally, almost more than it does emotionally. Yeah. Like this might be the number one problem the restaurant has, is that the lack of communication and how that just drains the energy from either side of it.
Yeah. I think with Ritchie's like step up into, hey, I think I've kind of found my purpose. I have a routine. I have, a new fashion sense that helps me be who I am. I think because he has that, his already pretty large ego, right, is now that much larger. He thinks he rightfully so. Like he knows how to operate the front of house. Like he's good at that.
Yes.
But I think he has an idea of the way the restaurant should work that Carmy is like, no, that's not how we're going to run things here. And they're not talking a bit about it. And Carmy makes his non-negotiables and Ritchie makes his counter non-negotiables, which something about staying out of the dream weave or who knows what. Like they're just kind of in their own separate worlds here. And that was something like, I was kind of hoping for, like the divide between the front half and the back half of this restaurant. There is that like glass window where they can kind of look at each other and
there's
and
a very
like but
haunting, a very effective shot where you see straight down the middle and it's just the two of them with their backs turned, not talking.
Yeah.
And Ritchie looks
great stuff.
Furious. Yeah.
To the point where we even see him look down at the floor and he sees a fork on the floor.
Yes.
Which the fork has all kinds of connotations, from the seven fishes episode, but also the job interviews, where he had the one that was like out of place, not where it should be, and he was waiting to see like who's gonna be on their game, like who has the attention to details. And in that moment that he sees that fork, he decides to leave it.
Well, as near as we can tell, we never see
the moment,
right? We never see. We just see him staring at this fork, and he looks just exhausted and checked out. And like, this is a problem. Why is this happening? I'm supposed to fix it. Do I even have the energy to fix it? And we don't know that if maybe later he did, because he did, or like made sure I cannot mess with this right now, but I have to make sure it never happens again. But did he miss the one time that he truly should have fixed it?
Yeah. To me, it reads just as shorthand for I'm off my game. Even though mentally he thinks he's like, I know how to run this restaurant. We need to do surprises and all of this, right? He's still just like, I'm not actually on my game here. I'm too exhausted to pick up a single fork.
But he does things like see the purse sit like flopped over on the ground, and he says, I should get a purse stool for somebody to put their bag so it's not flopped over on the ground, which is a longer term thing and a really ingenious advancement. If I went to a restaurant and I had a purse stool, boy, would I be impressed.
Sure, but also
so, like,
maybe not the like necessarily needs to be a priority right then and there, right? Like, that's something, hey, if we have the time, we can get that. But the floor is a mess right now. There's forks on it. There's food, right? There's spilling things.
I would have liked to see a smidge more front of house this season. I think it was a little bit more culinarily focused. And Forks was my favorite episode of the whole series. I loved that close look at the service side of what makes a restaurant special and how people in the service role can be just as ingenious and trailblazing as a chef can be in their own way. And I would have liked just a smidge more of that this season.
Yeah. But I think something that we mentioned in our episode on seasons 1 and 2 is seeing more of the dishwashers, right? How do they factor into all of this here? And we still didn't get that.
I gotta have more Gary. I like that this season gave Gary a specific role, that he is going to be the sommelier,
which I think is
learn
a great
all this
fit.
Stuff.
That's awesome for him. Yeah.
Who doesn't want to learn more about wine? Give us a whole Gary episode, please.
Yes, please.
I did love. I forget if it's like Teddy Fack who's asking him, but somebody, because he used to be a ball player.
It's Teddy,
and they asked him. Yeah, and they asked him about sobriety, not like wine sobriety, but like drug sobriety. And he's like, I only ever took steroids twice. And the second time I did it, I'm like, I don't like this. I'm not going to stick with it. This doesn't work. But that was when they called the drug test. Like, it was just this terrible, like, I made the wrong choice at the wrong time, and it would not have had lasting repercussions for my life, except for this one terrible stroke of luck. And that's how I got here.
Yeah. Yeah, I really do hope we get more of that. Especially, as you pair wine with the food, when he's able to keep up with Carmy in the pairings of that stuff. That'd be awesome. That'd be so good.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah. So I guess on the flip side of Ritchie, let's jump over to Carmy, as he is kind of the main character of the show, so to speak.
Yes.
You already mentioned
he's gone deep into it.
Breaking up with Claire, that's affected him a lot. And I think as a result of him realizing this huge mistake that he just made, decides to like double down on, no, we are getting a Michelin star, and I am going to drag everyone kicking and screaming into that position. Because he knows he has what it takes to get everyone there, but also he just kind of does it by retreating into himself and not really consulting anyone else. He makes this ever-changing menu, right?
Yes, right. And I think the idea of non-negotiables is a great idea when the team agrees on them together.
Yes.
And not when a singular person decides this without speaking to anybody. And we see how doing a new menu every day is not cost effective. It's not practical. When they realize we missed the Chicago Tribune food critic coming in, they wrote a review about us. Now they have to come in and photograph the food that is being discussed in the review. We made that one night. Do we remember what goes in it? Do we have the ingredients on hand?
Nope.
Like, you see, like, time after time is kicking him in the ass that he decided to do this. He doesn't it's like a major rift in his relationship with Sydney.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has no positive effects on anyone.
Like, it just immediately sticks out like a sore thumb of, oh, this is going to be a problem. You can't change the menu every night. If everyone was on board with that, sure. But like,
or at least don't do this the week you open.
Right.
Make this a goal. Why do this now?
I even thought, like, why change everything every single day, but have a rotating menu that you change once a week. So every week there's a new dish, and that dish stays for 8 weeks or so. But as everything like slowly rotates off and like that,
or it's like Tuesday is seafood night, Wednesday is lamb night, etc.
Yeah, something. So, yeah, I mean, he's retreated into himself. He's retreated back to not necessarily old ways, but repeating behaviors of how he was treated when he and as we know from seasons 1 and 2 and by the end of this season, right? Like these behaviors were not good for him to be like have other people put that on him. It caused some real damage. Which then he finally gets to address at the like funeral dinner for the restaurant that Forks was at. Yeah.
Yes. And I really like that turn.
Joel McHale.
Especially because when we see Joel McHale, he is only talking to Carmy, and you're almost uncertain if he was a real person or if he is a representation or an amalgamation of other things. Yeah. So to see him in real life talking to other people, it's like, okay, all right, we have not moved into any sort of magic realism or unreliable narrator. He is a real human man. And his reaction is surprising. He doesn't apologize, but he also doesn't yell back. It's
he does the Don Raper. I don't think of you at all. Like I don't know who you are.
Or like Carmy's confrontation might be the 5th confrontation like this that guy has received, and he's like, "Yeah, so what else is new?"
Yeah, this is just part of it.
Lots of people hate me. Yeah.
Yeah, and like to a degree, he's right. He's like, I put you through the fire on purpose so that you could be this like battle hardened chef and that nothing would rattle you. And look where you are now. Like you've made it. And I mean, and of course that's still debatable in certain terms, but to an extent, he's kind of right. But then Carmy just breaks down at this, and he's just like, no, like you did more damage than good. Like I can't sleep. I have nightmares. I have anxiety. I didn't used to have this stuff, at least not to this extent, right? So yeah, it's just it's interesting to see Carmy say it out loud.
Yes,
right?
That's good. That's
he's at least taken the step to confront the person that did this to him, that it inflicted this trauma. But now he needs to continue to be open with other people around him, which is something he's not the greatest at. He does go to those meetings still, which he tends to be pretty open with that, but that's strangers. Right? Those aren't necessarily people that he's going to see ever again. Yeah,
we never see any of them come back.
Yeah.
Not yet.
So it's going to take a lot for him to sit down with Sydney and have that conversation, and let her take over.
Yeah, because you can tell he's still, like, he trusts her in theory. He has not demoted her or like said anything different about her, but in practice,
recognizes
like,
talent,
these are my yes. If you asked him who's the best chef you know, he would probably still say her. But in practice, he's like, I made the non-negotiables. I am saying what the menu is. I designed all of this.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, you're my co-partner. Sign the DocuSign that says you're my co-partner. Love how much of this season hinges on a DocuSign. Like, he says that, but that is not how he is acting. And it's really frustrating there in that last episode or two when she's getting close to talking to him about it. And you can see that he does care about her. He does respect her. And that conversation might really do the job of getting the two of them on the right path and getting him to fix some of these grievances that she has. But like, she just will not say it. She's like, no, we're both tired. The timing's not right. And he's like, just not in the headspace to verbalize that or like step outside of his own mind and say it for himself.
Let's talk about Sydney.
Yeah. A tough time for Sydney this season. Proud of her to get her own apartment. I'm happy that she got her own apartment, but we still see plenty of her dad, Sydney's dad, a real supporting cast, Jim.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Yeah, also she had her, I don't know if this was her directorial debut in general, but for the show, specifically, she got to direct, I believe it was it Ice Chips? Is that? No,
Napkins.
It was Napkins. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. And I think she has also stepped up her game. She is also starting to become more well known, like, in the community.
Yes.
And I think that is weighing on her, because in season 2, when she went around, people were introducing this idea of like, hey, do you have a partner you can trust? And she was like, I mean, yeah, I think, but also it's kind of strained right now, but it'll be okay, right? And then here we see that, like, in full clear view, and they're not on the same page at all.
No.
And in fact, she is kind of being poached here of like, hey, there's another new restaurant starting up, and we're going to pay you more, and we'll have benefits right away, and we'll have this stuff. We're like 6 months out, but still, right? Yeah. It's an attractive offer.
Right. And I like that that guy says, I don't want things to be awkward. Like, if we have to have an open conversation with Carmy about it. Like, if you need to talk with him, just let me know when I need to start looking for somebody else. I feel like that other guy is trying to be as civil about it as he can be.
Yeah, as civil as he can be, but also like, damn, you're a good chef. Like, I'm trying to pull out all the stops, you know?
And like, the civility almost makes the situation worse, where it's like, this man is being very polite. There's in a way that rush. Carmy has lost the ability to be. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And the lack of rush lets it, fester in her head for a long time.
Yeah. And yeah, she's just, she's not on the same page as Carmy here. She has ideas about how they can do things, but he's just so in his own head that, you know, there's always something happening. Someone died, someone had a baby, someone did this thing broke, these people had a fight, right? It's never a good time. And I think Sydney needs to realize that in more ways than one. Two, I think even in the way that her dad supports her in the restaurant, he's still hesitant, he's still cautious. Even the way he's like helping her look for her own apartment, he's just like, the walls are so thin, like, you need a better place, you know. And for her to have this conversation of like, I already bought the place, like, doesn't have that conversation with him until it's like, no, next step is let's go get a couch. Like, there's just always some kind of disconnect. They're not on the exact same page. And I don't know. I don't know where she'll end up. Like I could see a big tragedy, a big wake up call of the show is her being like, no, I need to leave.
I don't know if the show will. I think that is the impending threat. I don't know if it'll happen. Mostly because we already have more than enough characters to manage. We don't need, even temporarily, her going over to another restaurant and meeting more new characters.
That's the thing. I don't want to say that is a good way to write her off of the show, but to like have her presence be missed. Right? So that we don't follow her as much. She is kind of out of the picture. Maybe they do the thing where she, in the same way that she bumped into that one chef at the subway, right? Maybe she bumps into Tina at the subway or something like that. Or Tina bumps into her. So she is still a presence, but just not in the same way. And I think that whole would be effective in waking Carmy up, especially since she's already left once before and decided to come back, right? Like having her be like, no, this is for real this time, I think is just going to be a stab in the heart for Carmy.
So. And if she did leave, it would be nice to see like Tina or Marcus or somebody stepping up. I also like the very slow burn on any kind of relationship between Sydney and Marcus. I like how much that potentiality is taking its sweet time.
I'm team her and Luca.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They had a real nice moment.
I do like Luca
there together. I think
I want to shout out the scene where you see Sydney taking a cab or an Uber somewhere, and she makes the driver stop, and she just stares out at Lake Michigan for a minute or two. Which is a really, again, contemplative, the word of the season. But you're not sure where she's going. And then you see she's just bringing like food to Sugar and Petey while they're dealing with the new baby, which is such a sweet thing. And you're like, thank God. It's nice to see a character caring about another character. Again, when you're the audience, maybe you haven't thought that far ahead yet. The fact that Sugar had this baby and it's almost like incidental. Like the birth of the initial labor is the focus and like her coming back together with her mom. But by the end of the season, I'm like, what's that baby's name? Who is that? Does the baby have a name? What are the repercussions of who is taking up Sugar's responsibilities at the restaurant? Do they need to hire somebody new? What's going to happen next? There's a lot more to be done with that. But for the time being, it was very nice to see Sydney just bring them food. And I like that Petey wants to eat all of it immediately. And he doesn't have the same culinary brain. Like, she's so sensory focused that she's like, if you heat up anything, the smell will get to them because I know my food and my food smells incredible. And he's just like, oh boy, spaghetti. Can I have spaghetti now?
No, that's going to be loud. No, that's going to smell real good. Wake them up. Like, just let them sleep.
He's thinking about the noise, but he's not thinking about the smell. Like, he's still like catching up to this world of like intense culinary tastes. And it's not like, oh, it'll just smell like your average banal can of Chef Boyardee.
Yeah. So he was a good one. Do you want to go Sugar next, or should we go Tina?
Yeah. Oh, let's go Sugar. Okay. Ice Chips is a really powerful episode. I love the scene where she's in labor and she's in traffic. What a nightmare.
Oh God.
What a great portrait of what it's like to be in Chicago dealing with that traffic.
This is awful.
And she's running through the list of like every possible person she could call. She's like, will Marcus help me? Which is a nice callback to when they're talking about legacy earlier on in the season. And they're talking mostly about like professional legacy. And what Marcus says the legacy is that he wants to leave is he says, I want to be somebody's best emergency contact.
Right.
Which is such a small, honorable thing to want to do. And the one time it might come into play, he's not there.
Yeah, I mean, he's not great at it, to be honest, because he, like, at the end of season 2, his phone was blowing up while they had their opening night, and
which is like, what a great thing to want to be, and what a conflict with no, but our phones are completely off while we're at the restaurant, and we're always at the restaurant. So you might want to do this, Marcus, but like your life is not going to allow that to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just another small pain point in the whole quilt of pain points that make up this whole show.
Yeah. I think the episode where Sugar gets to reconnect with her mom is a pretty great one. Not necessarily my favorite in terms of like the dialogue between the characters, but to me it was just the fact that they were there doing it, right? And it is strained at first. It gets better as time goes on. And in her own way, like, yeah, it is the ice chips that it's just this little small gesture of like, let me get you a cup of ice chips that really kind of seals the deal between them. And Sugar finally trusting her mom to be like, yeah, you have done this multiple times. You do know what I'm going through here. There is room for us to connect some here. And I think that is it is exactly what the mom wants. She feels disconnected from the rest of her family, right? I mean, obviously in the previous season, she said that no one makes anything beautiful for me, right? That was her kind of pain point. And yeah, has just kind of been absent from these people's lives. And I think this is a good first step into maybe some kind of understanding or reconciliation between them. And I thought it was a fantastic episode. So, yeah.
I did a real standout for just focusing on these two performers and in like so many tight close-ups. Like it's just two women's faces for like 45 straight minutes.
Yep. And then all the hee-hee-hoo, the stuff that she's like, it's not helping. It is helping. They're still yelling. They're still right. They're still, it's still tense. But yeah, that is a great one. And yeah, you brought up something that I didn't even think about till we got on this podcast here of, with her on mom duties, like, do they need to get someone else to be project manager, to be kind of the, whatever you call it, not receptionist, but like just the kind of day-to-day operations of
yes. I wonder if they're going to bring in that woman who works at Ever on the service team who like Ritchie could have a thing with.
Yeah, and I hope
I forget her name, but I do like her.
The thing with too, they also worked great together. So
yeah, then he can have somebody to take to his ex-wife's wedding. And I love the scene where they talk and she's like, I don't have any family left. You are my family. Like, even though they're divorced, she really cares about him, still considers him part of the family, still considers everybody part of the family. You get I think in the first or second episode of the season, you get a brief flashback to everybody walking out of Michael's funeral. And you see her, Jillian Jacobs' character, Ritchie's ex-wife, with like Neil Fack comforting her on the way out of the funeral. Like those characters don't even seem close. But the fact that they thought to put them together and like he would see this woman crying and maybe not even know her that well, but still like
another moment of the facts.
I've got you covered. Yes.
Swooping in and saving the day.
They are quietly like a powerhouse that keeps this family going.
Yeah,
every extended member of the family.
Loved all the flashbacks that we got of Carmy crashing on John Mulaney's couch, and he's like spraying him down with Axe. And
he's like, you smell like weird food, but you're still like, you are welcome in my home, and I will put a blanket over you when you're exhausted and you just flop on the couch.
Yeah.
It is the greatest strength of this show to have these small, extremely minor supporting characters who just do something that's a little nicer than you would expect from them.
Yeah, that's good. But yeah, can we not necessarily wrap things up, but I feel like this is the last major one here. Let's talk about Tina.
Yeah.
Because I think we have a great episode with her that also takes place in the past, and basically is her story about how she got fired from her old job, how she got laid off, and then her struggle to find work, and then just kind of stumbling into the bear on accident and walking out that day with a brand new family, new home, like everything.
It's such it's a nice look at a more positive side of Michael.
Yes.
Like getting to see why people really loved Michael and what his loss means, when normally we've seen him in a lot more confrontational contexts.
Yeah, or just like the flashback where he looks back and smiles, right? And it's just like, you miss me, right? Yeah, like this, it is a great example of them connecting as people and not just connecting over food or connecting over the restaurants, right? Like he truly has just a good conversation with her as he's sharing some of his life experience. She's sharing some of her own. And then like it's another episode where the show later on, the camera just happens to linger a little bit on one of those napkin containers as Tina walks by, and it's just that short hand for like, oh, it means so much that she's still here, right?
Yes.
So yeah, like I love what they get to do with all of that, and we also get to see the like OG crew before like everyone else was there. I liked the inclusion of them and getting to see more of them, and then them being rehired to help to help Ibrahim run the thing, because he was just a one-man army back there, but Lord, he was struggling. And now they just got their own like back of the restaurant section, and they're having a blast. So
it is interesting that they are continuing to do, while they have this dining room, this high end, we're going for a Michelin star dining room, and the side window where it's like, do you want exactly the same sandwich that this place has been serving for 15 years? You can get exactly the same sandwich in like the same paper wrapper and cheap napkins and sit on a lawn chair and eat the sandwich.
It is the one thing that is profitable. Like consistently, like people love that. And yeah, like I know we talked a little bit about the menu earlier, but I would love to see like that sandwich be available still in the fine like how can they make that a fine dining experience?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Would love to see a classed up version of that.
I love when Marcus gets fascinated and fixated on something, and he builds that inspiration wall around his station. And the last time we see him doing it, he's fascinated with magic. Like magic tricks, both literally in front of you and sort of like on the screen, on the stage. And we don't see what he's cooking up. He's not there yet, but I love that seed being planted for what is this dessert going to be? And that's something Carmy has no color interaction changing with.
Yeah. Is it?
Who knows?
Will the flower bloom that he's making? Something like that would be sweet.
And Carmy's entirely on the savory food, like the main dishes and the appetizers and the amuse-bouches and everything. It would be interesting to see if he gets like eclipsed by how good Marcus is at the desserts, if he gets eclipsed by like Gary's work as a sommelier, if people wind up coming to the restaurant for something that isn't him, and he's not like an
I would love that.
And the issue isn't his ego, but like he's very controlling, and he knows that if he's in charge of something, he can have control over it and make sure it goes perfectly.
Yeah, I think it would be a great place for him to end up if he. I mean, everyone knows he's an incredible chef by himself, right? Like if he wants to create, like he knows his stuff, but if he can, take a little bit more of a back seat and like have his fingers in all kinds of pies to foster up talent, and do it that way, I think he can find something really special where he can kind of maybe he has final say on stuff, but he can help direct some of these chefs, help them, make the vision that they want to have. I think he will end up really flourishing in that as well. So could be some good stuff. I know we won't get to every single character here, but are there a few other things that you wanted to shout out that you really, really loved?
It was very sweet, the conversation that Carmy has with Uncle Cicero, where the introduction of a guy named the Computer, an interesting addition to this season. Yeah. And the computer's done the math, and he's like, you have to cut the strings. And Uncle goes to Carmy, and he can't bring himself to say that. And he places it in the hands of this mysterious instrument of fate, which is the review. If the review is bad, I'm gone. But if the review is good, I have to find a way to stay. And I like when he talks about going to lectures and learning more about like scientific progress. And you can see why, not just for the money, not just because like these are his, his nephews and his niece, and he wants to, be there for them as family, but he has a genuine interest in being a patron of progress. That's something he wants to do with his life. That's something he aspires to. He's like, I want to see things be better. I want that to be what my money goes towards. And that's a lot of the reason why he is why he is hanging on, why he is struggling to let go beyond just doing bad by his family.
Yeah. I think the funniest moment in season 3 also is between him and Carmy with the dystopian butter.
Yeah.
Funniest moment. So
that's a great line.
He's like, it's Orwellian. It's dystopian. Like, so good. I love all of that stuff. I like his kind of heart-to-heart talks that he has with all of these different characters. Yes. I would like to see him interact more with the other characters too, and not just Carmy, not just Sydney or Sugar. What does he have to say to Marcus?
Weird pairings together,
right?
What does he have to say to Gary?
Yeah.
What are these episodes like?
Exactly. I would love to see more of that. I would love to see. I know we also just kind of rehired the OG crew to run the back of shop. I would love to see an episode focusing on that in the midst of all of this. Like, just totally, only do stuff here. Can something go wrong up here in the same way that it like we're used to, but they handle it in their own way here, right?
Yeah.
Like,
it's the whole episode is only the sandwich counter, and we just hear the rest of the team yelling in the background.
Yeah, we would love that, especially if it's like a simultaneous thing. Like, you hear certain things, and then the next episode is you get to hear them do all that, but you hear the back counter like do all of that stuff. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Let's talk about. Oh no, go ahead.
Go ahead. I didn't have something specific, so please continue.
Let's talk about how this season ends on a to be concluded cliffhanger, which continued. Is what is.
I don't believe it said concluded. I believe it said continued.
Sure. That's right. There is a distinction there. That's true. What is the result of the review? Because something they said is we are going for a Michelin star. And this is a conversation, I think, in like the season 1 finale that like Carmy and Sydney have. 1 star is perfect. We can't get more heat than that. 2 stars, too much pressure. And the tension of this season has been after they realize,
what will this review say?
That food critic came in and we missed them. It's like, is this going to be a good review or a bad review? What if the review is too good? What I don't think. What if they do get 2 stars when they were only aiming for 1? What perils could that introduce?
I was trying to think of some of the same things. Yeah.
Would that maybe would that convince Sydney to stay but also convince her to really put her foot down. Like, the dish this person liked was my dish, or like I had these things to do with it. Like, I need to have as much control as you have.
They want the braised short ribs back.
Right. Yeah. What if the review is extremely positive and it's not positive about what you think it's going to be positive about? What if the reviewer's like, I loved my server, Neil.
Yeah.
Best part of the experience, Neil.
And
Back is the new star of season 4.
There's so many ways this could go, because we do get glimpses of what the review says, and it's a bunch of these different adjectives, and some of them are bad, some of them are good, and some of them can go kind of either way depending on what the context is. And one of the things I thought of was even that of like, what if the review is not definitive either way, and different people can read into it different ways?
Oh, yeah.
A critic or a chef might be like, maybe it's not the best place, right? So maybe it doesn't really, but maybe a more middle class person might be like, that sounds awesome. This sounds like a great experience. And like, so they just have like an influx of sales of people coming to the restaurant, which was another issue that they had. They needed to get more people in, and that could be something they're not prepared for. Lines out the door, right?
And it wasn't like number of people. It was like, how many people can we get in one night? We are spending more money to make food on one night. We can't get the people in and out fast enough.
Yeah. Or like you said, like the review ends up being too good, and now there's like, there's no way I would do that, and then it's like, how do we keep that? How do we trick them into thinking, yes, we actually did get 2 stars,
right?
Or I was even thinking, because there were scenes of the front of house being a mess, people spilling things, them continuing to pour the drink as the drink is spilling over. There are restaurants like that where it is an experience. They play jokes, they do all sorts of stuff like that.
They're going to become the new Ed DeBevics.
Not that I want them to be the next, like, welcome to Dick's, where we treat you right? Like, it's not that. I don't want that. But I'm wondering if there is kind of an experience, like there be in the way that it's like that wall is pretty thin, that glass gets you a glimpse into the kitchen. I'm wondering if the glimpse into the behind the scenes of what a restaurant truly is and the conflicts that happen will really interest people in the same way that this show has interested us, right? And they just want to, like, hey, we don't mind if things are kind of hectic or you have to refire my steak 16 times. Like, I'm interested in how this all works. Like, there could be an educational thing in the midst of that.
Right. Or it becomes like a zoo and people come by to gawk at the staff of the Bear. How are you guys pulling this off? How do you possibly do this?
Yeah. Who knows? So, yeah, there's all sorts of ways here, because we don't get the only other evidence that I think would be that it is a positive review is towards the end when they're having the after party at Sydney's new apartment. The review is like posted on her refrigerator by a magnet.
It's not that review. It's a different, isn't it? It's another review. It's not the one they've all been waiting for.
Are we sure? I thought that was the one, like, because the way I read that is that's the review, and her father put that up. And if her father put that up, then it must be a good review, because I don't think he would post a bad one in this same way. But talk to me about what you
because
you saw.
It's the middle of the night. Carmy gets the notification on his phone. It was a reviewer for like the Chicago Tribune or the Sun-Times or whatever the major newspaper is. If he's just now seeing it on his phone, it can't be in print yet. What she has on her fridge looks like it's a newspaper cutout. It doesn't look like it is an online article printout.
Do we know if he's getting, like, is he just getting the notification in real time, or did he have that notification and he just never had a moment to look at his phone while dealing with this funeral dinner and Joel McHale.
I had the impression that like this is happening in real time. He just like it's like midnight. The thing went live. He has like Google alerts up for his restaurant.
Maybe something to go back and look at. Get a second viewing of that there. But yeah, I do still absolutely feel like I still don't know what the review said, and this can go either way. It feels like the end of Inception, and the top is still spinning, right?
And for something that people have been waiting on, like I can't make a choice. I let the results of the review decide for me. If it comes out and this reviewer says, "This was my experience at the Bear," it's inconclusive. I will need to go back and tell you more at another time. Like if this actually does nothing, then all these characters have to decide for themselves.
Yeah, that could be the case too. So I don't know. Lots of interesting stuff in this season for sure. Lots of potential. It did, there were, it's not slower per se, because as you can see, we just talked about a bunch of stuff. But it felt to me much more contemplative. It felt like the eye of the storm. And I know people, I think, wanted to see more intense, like they're making something and it goes wrong and stuff like that. So I think a lot of people
like that. Yeah,
were also just like, I wished it had a little more of that stuff. But there you go. Season 4 cannot come soon enough. So good stuff. Do you have any final thoughts? I think that's about it for me.
Yeah. Let's close it out. Drop the check, please. All
right. Yeah, indeed. Well, that wraps us up then. So, Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me the old-fashioned way by writing me an email. Drop me a note at yourhostmelissa@gmail.com.
There you go. I don't think our ending thing is working at the moment. So if you guys want to follow me, you guys can find me at Yo Kyle Springer. And if you guys want to stay up to date with everything that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at the Whatnauts Official on Threads. So yeah, please go like, share, and subscribe. You guys know the deal with all of that. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, we got plenty more videos right over there for you to check out. But yeah, this has been number 137 of the Whatnauts Reactor Core. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.